We're good? Meeting of the Sherman County Board of Commissioners comes to order, please. We have public comment for the first 15 minutes. I'll get some checks signed.
This was separated.
What?
This was separated.
That one was an ACH. Yeah.
Okay, so I just need.
Yeah, you can or you don't have to.
Okay.
We turn the TV on.
Did you throw it over the top? Top is at the bottom.
I stayed out yesterday because I didn't leave anybody. There's not. I couldn't hardly leave. Couldn't hardly get out of bed. Everything. So,
Remember, you covered me on the 6th.
What's that?
You're covering me on the 6th. For men's group.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You know you came here.
I should be here finally. I'll get caught up.
Well, it's 13 is the one that you'll be working with.
Okay.
Okay. So if you can remember that, if not, I'll email you that too. So. You have a good time?
It's actually awesome. Really good message to the kids. First thing they started off with, they're not a problem. You're an adventure. I thought that was a deep problem.
Yeah.
Had a 45-minute sermon here in the church.
Wow.
Kids were attentive, paid attention. Pretty awesome. The bishop did an awesome job. I want to get the video and actually show it.
Did you guys see that email, that water right for the Smoky Bacon
Yes. Yes.
Can you send that to me, Rod?
Huh?
Can you send that to me? I did not see that.
You did not see that.
No.
you guys get something from Emily Roseberry? Did you get something from Emily Roseberry about a cell tower?
Yes.
Might want to talk about that a little bit. That's not on the agenda.
They were just wanting to know whether we had any
Permits or anything.
permits. I guess the only thing we need to make sure is that, Rod needs to go out there and make sure a culvert or something doesn't need to finish where they're going to drive. Other than that,
This goes in the middle.
mine was the
That's
top.
middle.
Mine was the top one. So
Okay, thanks.
it should be right.
That's 50.
You're good.
Those are,
Does he have the bottom or who?
mine were the bottom.
Well, it's not any more complicated, huh?
We're still in line, actually.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes of November 15th.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded, we approve the minutes for the November 15th meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passed. I entertain a motion for pay of the bills of $431,000.
I will make a motion to pay the bills amount of $431,446.48.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded, we pay the bills. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passed. Miss Chrissy.
I have two items today. The first one is an appointment letter for the Northwest Kansas Regional Homeland Security Council, which I've served on that council since, I believe, 2005. If you would like me to continue doing that, I sure can. I just need a signature on this letter.
I was hoping you'd want to do that.
I don't mind doing it.
Got a motion that she's gonna do that, Mr. Blick?
I will make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Chrissy continue serving on the Northwest Kansas Regional Homeland Security Council. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
And then my second item is the backup site. I've been working on getting quotes for the electrical that will serve the HVAC system in that area of the building. There's nothing back there to speak of right now. Getting electrical quotes takes a long time, apparently. Everyone's very busy, working on a total of 3. I don't have any of them in my hand as of the current time, but they're in the works. The question that I have for you, and I am not an HVAC expert, so I'm looking for, I guess, advice, opinions. What we have are 2 rooms. One is about half the size of the other. The smaller one will have a lot of servers and computer equipment, radio equipment in it.
That'll create a little bit of heat, right?
Heat, correct. And then it's a metal roofed building. And so in the summer, it needs to stay cool as well. The other room I'm not as concerned with. The only time it'll need to be cooled or heated is if we're working in there. The issue that I'm running into is I was first quoted and I came to you with the 2 bids for one system with 2 heads. The system got here and it was the wrong one. It only had 1 head. And looking back at the quote a little bit more closely, he mistakenly put 1 head on there. We just discussed it, so we had an issue with that. It only had 1 thermostat. And again, I'm not HVAC, so this is all a learning experience for me. So we kind of took a step back and talked about it and decided that 2 systems would make more sense. Or looking for one that has 2 thermostats. I don't know if they exist. But the thought was, what if the system goes down? 2 systems would make more sense. Then you've got one that you could sort of piggyback off of. I don't know. I guess I'm just to the point where here are the quotes that were given to me for the 2 options.
But they're in 2 separate rooms, separate areas.
They are. There is no air exchange between the 2 rooms.
So if you wanted redundancy, you'd have to put another duct in there that you could
Which can be
close
done.
off. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the police department and the city has been very good about working with me on punching holes in the walls for antennas and everything else that we've needed. So since I was meeting with you already today, I thought I'd bring this to you and kind of ask your advice. I believe the McClure's one on the 1 unit with 2 heads is higher because comparing the one with Plains says a 2-ton size system and McClure says a 3-ton. And again, I noticed that difference, so I'm assuming that's why there's such a price difference.
A 3-ton will cool a small house. You know,
So I'm not,
Let's see here.
I'm not sure.
The 2, you have a 1.5 ton systems in each, for each system.
okay.
So
But
I guess just looking for kind of a generic opinion on it. I really don't want to risk ruining that many dollars worth of equipment in a room that I can't be out there every day making sure that everything's hunky-dory. I also asked about if there is such a thing, like a temperature monitoring
right,
system, which maybe there is, that could alert us if it gets above or below a certain temperature. I think that would be a good thing to install.
I think that would be a wise thing where, you're not out there, out of sight, out of mind gets to happen sometimes.
Yes.
The unit fails, it gets
Well-
hot in there.
And the way the police department's laid out, if you've been there, is everything important where the people are is in the front. Then there's the gym, and then there's,
Back in the
Us.
corner.
which is nice for the separation of working out there, but I mean, short of going out every single day.
I don't have any trouble with the 1.5 ton because they're not trying to heat a great big area. But I would look at seeing if we couldn't get some type of a remote monitoring system in it. They make everything, they'll tell you if my sprinkler's running 20
Exactly.
miles away, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saves a lot of time and stress.
Yeah.
And we'll have internet, of course, out there, so, and that's another thing that Eric and I are working on. He's a busy guy, so. But the radios are in, completely independent system. So if dispatch floods, then everything we have down there is out there and ready to go right now, so.
Okay.
That's a big step right there.
So you're suggesting the bid from McClure's?
No, I was suggesting the bid from
Plains?
Plains with the two
The 2 separate units?
separate 1.5 ton.
Okay.
But I
That's what I
would,
would prefer.
I think
I would
makes more
see if we can't, either with Eric and get monitoring system, or if they have a monitoring system to provide to you that would be able to.
One that they've used and they know works
Yeah.
well. Yeah, and I can talk that over with them.
Okay.
Yep. They've been very prompt on anytime I've asked for these bids. It's within 48 hours for sure. They're right back to me. So, okay. Well, I will explore that, and then when I get some final numbers, I'll come back.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Actually, I'll get you a copy of the letter. Thank you.
Sarah be on at 8:30 with,
They'll be on the phone because we don't know how to do
Okay.
that better.
okay. So if I get a phone call, hit the green button.
Yes.
Resolution somewhere. Library. Ashley, in the fire board minutes, do you know anything about the 80 by 100 storage building they're talking about?
I don't. If I had to guess, it'd be out at the training site. But I don't
Okay.
know.
Is the library contract any different than it has been in the past?
I don't think so.
I don't see any changes. No, I think. Look at it, sir.
So we pay them $25,000 a year to the library.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that for, what's that for? Steve, do you know?
That's a combination of everything from heating, the upkeep, wages, part wages.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the library contract for next year.
Been moved, do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and second, we accept the library contract. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Okay, we have a resolution 23-11. That's a resolution consenting to the amend the extension of the neighborhood revitalization plan and interlocal agreement until December 31st of 2026. That's the city of Goodland, Sherman County, and Goodland School District 352. It started at February of 2018. Will continue until 2/26 now.
No changes in it?
Not that I,
Just the dates for the additional 3-year period.
say that again, please.
The only change was the dates to extend it for an additional 3-year period.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve resolution 23-11.
Well, second.
Been moved and seconded. We approve 23-11, the revitalization plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I was contacted the other day by Mr. Emick about the Smoky Gardens needing or possibly putting in a cement path for people to walk the nature trail. He was up at Atwood and saw that one, thought it was, and we're especially on the hill where it erodes and washes out. I said I would just bring it before the board and we talk about it, and then maybe get some more ideas and see what it would cost. He suggested that maybe get people to donate X number of feet of sidewalk. That's what they did at Atwood, was you donate to the cause and you get your name printed on the sidewalk section that you bought. So I thought it was a good idea to get more people to use that, and have people with wheelchairs can go up it, motorized scooter, anything like that.
Figure out how many feet we're
I
talking about.
I don't know. I'll have to go get some measurements.
That might be a
Might be a lot of cement.
grant. It might be a grant
Yeah.
situation.
Okay.
I'm not really opposed to it. It's just ironic that we want to walk out in the nature, but we got to have a sidewalk to walk on. That's just all. I think that's ironic.
Nature's changed.
As long as it's smooth sailing, Harvey, it's okay.
Okay.
When we have to rough it, I will get some more information, but I told him I would at least put it in our thoughts and see what we could do. I think the idea of the grant possibly might be a great idea.
Kenny Sanderson met with Rod Roeder out there to flag off areas that want to start
Start with
the
the
riprap. So there's a plan in place. So
Okay.
we'll probably start hauling if they already haven't. I don't know.
We need to approve the interlocal agreement that's with the NRP. Yep. We did the resolution, but now we need to approve the interlocal agreement.
Okay. This is the NRP. Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning, Sarah Steele with Gilmore and Bell.
Good morning, Beth Johnson with the Kansas Department of Commerce.
Very good. You're here with Commissioner Swagger, Commissioner Blake, Ashley Manis, and our attorney, and then some people in the gallery. So please go ahead, Sarah.
Great. Well, I am bond counsel to the county, along with Kevin Cowan, that you may have worked with previously. Kevin's still here, and we are discussing today the possibility of giving some economic benefits to a project that has been proposed in Sherman County. And the industrial revenue bonds are one mechanism to extend a property tax exemption. It also may be used to grant a sales tax exemption on all of the materials acquired during construction. So any sort of equipment that's not otherwise exempt could be exempt from sales tax as well. The property tax exemption is up to 10 years, up to 100% of everything paid for with bond proceeds. The industrial revenue bond itself has to be issued by either a city or a county, but it is solely paid from the rent paid under a lease agreement between the county and the company. The company is obligated to make all payments. The county is prohibited from making any payments. So this is in no way considered a debt of the county at all. It's solely based on the credit and the obligation to repay by the company that is involved. And so the reason the company wants to do this is to seek a property tax exemption for up to 10 years and the sales tax exemption. I'm not going to go there, but I will mention that there is a third benefit for very specific types of projects, and that is that the interest paid on the bonds could be exempt from federal and state income taxes if it is a certain qualifying business. Good example right now that's very popular down south of you is there are a number of dairies expanding or constructing down there, and the solid waste portion of their facility for the manure can be financed with federally tax exempt bonds. But I don't know the specifics on this type of project, so that may or may not come into play with you.
But that would be up to them to go after the state and federal benefits, correct?
Correct.
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, this is just basically an accommodation by the county to help the project in giving it these benefits initially. So as you can imagine, the sales tax exemption alone is huge. Those savings will be very large. The property tax exemption also on this size project would also be an extremely large dollar amount of the benefit. So it helps them in the first years of operation, and that's really it. That's why counties and cities do these. The city of Goodland has done several, and so it's a mechanism, but it is not a liability of the county, nor is the county responsible for finding anyone to buy the bonds. So it's not like your normal road, bridge, building type bonds that the county might issue.
It's not a general obligation bond, it's a revenue bond. I mean,
Correct.
period.
And the revenues are solely from the income received by the county from the company. That's it.
Is there any big negative to doing one of these? Anything that stands out?
I mean, I would say no, but some people might perceive that if the county does the bond issue and the project fails, again, the county's not going to be liable for anything, but it might be, they might perceive that there's a black eye. Failures on IRBs are very, very rare. So I guess I wouldn't worry about that happening as long as you're comfortable with the company that you're entering into this with. You don't have to do a lot of due diligence on them, mainly because it's not the county's responsibility.
I think the only negative I could think of is if you proposed this to a company for 10 years, and that was pretty much the life expectancy of the project.
I would agree with that. That's correct. Good point.
I mean, if it's a 20-year life expectancy for the project, yeah, it'd be a good deal.
You don't
Right.
have to do 10. You can do 5 if you want. It's just up to.
Maximum.
You can.
Okay.
Okay.
And it is,
May do, or a lot of issuers do a graduated scale where they'll give 100% abatement the first year. It doesn't, there's no requirement, but a lot of them do like a declining 10% per year. So year 2, it'd be 90% exempt, 80, and so on.
Yeah.
That you can do whatever combination you see fit. The company's obviously going to negotiate with you on trying to get their best deal they can. But
And this is always a case by case deal, right? This is always case by case. I mean,
yeah.
one business.
I mean, I think so. A lot of communities have policies in place, and so they'll look to their policies as how they ought to apply it. We'll get to that in a little bit when we talk about the EDX, if you want to.
Okay.
But there's no requirement for an IRB that you have a policy in place.
And just because you have a policy in place doesn't mean you have to issue it. If a business comes to you and you don't feel comfortable with them, or they just don't qualify, you don't feel they qualify, you don't have to extend that to them.
Correct.
Okay.
and this is only for new businesses, or can an existing business that is expanding?
It frequently is used for your existing businesses for expansion.
For expansion.
Okay.
Sure. You can't exempt the original property itself that's been on the tax rolls unless somebody goes out and sells their business completely to a third party. Then they can ask for these same benefits for the new entity that is acquiring an existing building. And I've done a couple of those this year.
Okay.
Because employment, there's reasons why people want to encourage the people to use that building and stay in business.
Yep.
That's a limited circumstance where it's got to be an independent third party that buys it.
Okay. I guess the hard part about this is we don't know anything about the new business, but we need to put together, if we want to do this, we need to put together a plan to have it available when
Beth, do
negotiations.
you have any information on the type of business? I received an email
Well, we're not.
from.
We're not supposed to talk about what we know. We're not supposed to say anything about what we know or don't know because they're not ready to disclose it yet. If it's
Never mind.
If it's the one we're thinking of. So,
Then this is just an educational session. Understood.
yeah.
Okay, yes.
There we go.
So,
Commissioners?
Yes.
So I mean, that in a nutshell is the industrial revenue bond process. I could get into the specifics of it, but the fact of the matter is that if you retain our firm, we'll draft all of the documents and walk everyone through the necessary steps and the process. Our fees are paid by the beneficiary of the IRB. So they're paid by the company
Okay.
that is benefiting from this.
Sarah, our county appraiser is up at the table now.
So, Sarah, I just wanted to let them know that we do have a couple of these properties currently that get bonds. They're both in the city limits, so the bonds are issued by the city, and that they are an exemption except for the school general capital outlay is the portion, that portion they do not get exempt, and they do have to file paperwork with us every year as long as they're getting their bonds stating that they still meet the conditions of those bonds. So they have to file that in our office by March 1st every year so that you know that they're still meeting those conditions.
So the company files that, and then the city, in this case, would back up that, yes, they're still using it in the proper manner. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then that.
Yes, and that is helpful. That the capital outlay levy portion is never exempted. It can go up to 8 mils. I'm not sure what your local one is, but it is whatever it is up to 8 mils that is never exempted.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And if they fail to file that paperwork each year, they can lose their
They can-
exemption. So,
So it can be in essence revoked.
yes.
Okay.
So, and that form goes to the state. So,
Okay.
You can also do an agreement that would specify that they have to meet certain employment requirements or a certain level of capital investment, or really anything that you are concerned about making sure that the company does in order to qualify for this property tax exemption can be written into an agreement that also allows you, to review and revoke every year.
So,
It's like anything else. If you make them jump through too many hoops, they may not want to do it. But yet, if they're willing to jump through the hoops, they're confident in their ability to succeed. Does that make sense?
Plus, if they jump through the hoops, there's a huge savings for them.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, has there ever been a case where you issued a 5-year bond and the company did amazingly better than expected, and they asked for another 5 years? Does that happen? Or does that have to be written into it from the get-go?
It should. There was one circumstance that I have been involved in where we actually went back and were able to have it was a city, passed an ordinance that extended their period up. It was only like a 3-year exemption, and they extended it like another 4 years.
Okay.
And so, but my preference is if you want to do a 5-year term, it's probably better on the front end to just say that this is a 5-year exemption plus 5 years. Beyond that, so a total of 10.
Okay.
But at 5 years, they have to come in and request the additional 5 years, and the county commission at that point has discretion on whether to extend or not.
Okay.
now, if we retain your company, would you be doing most of the setup and paperwork for these bonds? Or what are we looking at in that aspect of working with your company?
Yes, our firm would do all of the documents required. We're not going to make your county attorney do them.
He looks disappointed.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sure you're not. So we would prepare all of those documents. Again, we would represent the county because we are bond counsel to the county. And this sounds really strange, but company's going to have to pay us to do the work because the county is not directly, I mean, yes, you have a new business coming in and all of that, but the county's not directly benefiting like you would with a GO bond.
Right.
Okay.
Sarah, can you go over EDX, please?
Yes, I was going to say, if we want to jump from IRBs, there is a second method that can be used solely for purposes of giving a property tax exemption of up to 10 years, up to 100% of the facility. It requires several items that have to be met. It may only be used for one of the three different categories. It applies to manufacturing, warehousing of goods shipped in interstate commerce. So anybody that, has things coming into the warehouse and then it's shipped over a state line is fine. And then the third is research and development. So one of those three categories for the business, they can then come to the county and the county may grant under the Kansas Constitution an exemption from property tax. And the process is similar to the IRB process initially, where they would get a cost-benefit analysis that Beth can help out with. They would hold a public hearing and get a resolution adopted making certain findings. And then the county could move forward with granting them a property tax abatement.
Now,
The
now that's
other
permanent?
requirements are that
10 years.
owner of the property must be the operator in the property. So you can't have a third party own the building and lease it to anyone else. There is a limited exception for a related party, but we just have to look at that if that comes into play. The easiest case is the owner of the building operates the business in the building. That satisfies a requirement called exclusive use of the facility. Then the second requirement is that they must have at least one additional employee as a result of the application and the facility that they're applying for. This would apply again to either a new purchase by a third party of an existing facility or construction of either an addition to a facility or obviously new construction as well. But the expansion is only, the exemption's only on the expanded portion, not the original,
Right.
which is just like an IRB. So really the most difficult thing that we run into is certainly on new construction, if they don't have a sales tax exemption otherwise, then it's sure easier and more beneficial to do IRBs. But the EDX process is simpler It's more streamlined.
But it's also more
Yeah.
restrictive.
You can look at either way
Yeah.
of getting the property tax exemption. Did that address what you wanted to, Ashley?
Yes.
Great.
So are there municipals that have both? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
so you just have both
And,
options?
and that brings up that one of the requirements for the EDX is that the granting entity, so the county, would have to have a policy covering their economic development exemption. That can be very simple. It doesn't have to be, an elaborate policy. Again, it doesn't have to apply to IRBs. It can, but I've seen, it's easier to keep it on the economic development exemption side. And then you can kind of use that as a benchmark for any IRBs as well.
Okay.
Sarah, I have one question. So say the commissioners decide this is something that they want to proceed forward with, what would you say is the estimated time frame once we have an application or policy in place?
Well, the first step would be, in either case, if there's a property tax exemption requested, the cost benefit analysis would need to be prepared, and that can take as long or as short as the company takes in responding to the list of questions. And again, the Department of Commerce can run those for you. So, whatever his schedule is, as well as just how quickly you can respond on the questions. Once we have the cost benefit, there is a requirement that we publish a notice of public hearing at least 7 days in advance of the public hearing. We'd have to give notice. Actually, I draft this, but a letter giving notice to the school district. And if there is a city located within 3 miles of the site, we have to give the city notice as well. And so that's, 7 days or more in advance of a regular meeting. And then we just schedule it on your regular meeting, hold the public hearing, take all the action to, at least on the EDX side, we do everything. Take all action necessary to grant the exemption at one meeting. If it's the IRB, the commission would consider a resolution of intent to issue bonds. We could assist the county then in going to the Department of Revenue, getting an exemption certificate from sales tax that they want to use upfront. And once they have that completed, then we usually tell people go off and construct. Don't issue the IRBs yet. Your property tax exemption starts January 1 of the calendar year after the year in which bonds are issued. So, for example, right now we're scrambling to get those buildings that are complete now, the IRBs issued for those, so they'll be exempt as of January 1, 2024. So there's a little bit of timing required on the IRB side, but so really, an EDX, if they've got a sales tax exemption some other way, is much more streamlined and cheaper.
Okay.
Question for you, Sarah. Say we have a business that comes in, has applied for the IRB and everything. They get the construction started, but because of shortfalls on delivery of supplies. They're not getting the building built in the year that they thought, and they have to extend that a year. Is there stipulations on when it has to be completed before the
That's
bond?
up to you. That's up to the commission. So that's why I recommend waiting to issue the IRBs when they're nearing the completion of the construction. So you can extend the sales tax exemption for any number of years that you choose. If it's going to take 2 years to build, you put it out 2 years, and then you would issue the IRBs toward the end of construction. On the EDX side, you can grant the EDX now. It doesn't start until the project is complete. So
Okay.
once the project is complete, we'll submit an application to the Board of Tax Appeals to exempt that property. But it's again, you can do everything up front right now on an EDX, but you don't get a sales tax exemption. There's no possibility of the income tax exempt bonds, but you can sure do that as well. That answer your question?
Yes, that does.
And Steve, we're still gonna pick up what's there January 1. So if it's a partial construction, January 1, we're still gonna value what's there regardless if they have an exemption or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so in that case, you could issue the bond. We have done, I don't know if you're familiar with this one. I'm sorry, what's the county appraiser's name?
Rochelle.
Rochelle
Okay.
Stanley.
Thank you. I don't know if we've done this to you before, but you can issue IRBs in what we call a drawdown. And that means that the bonds are advanced, like at the end of year 1, they could have the bond issue closed, and we would say, okay, they've built X dollars of the project. And then in year 2, they've built another, amount, Y dollars of the project. They would get a 10-year, they could get a 10-year abatement in 2 10-year periods. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like rolling, year 1 would be 2024 to 2033. Year 2 improvements would be 2025 to 2034.
Okay.
And it's a percentage of the facility. It's a county appraiser's nightmare.
Sounds
She's
like
smiling already. So. Yeah.
It is. It's a pain. Board of Tax Appeals, though, will let you do it. But I will tell you, there's some projects out there that are pretty substantial that we're waiting still to issue the bonds. So the company, may be paying a portion of property taxes on it. I'm thinking of the Hillmark project down by Dodge City. It's a good size. And so it really makes more sense for the company to just wait and issue the bonds when they're complete so they get 10 full years of an exemption and you don't have to mess with the drawdown structure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm taking up more time than you planned on, Ashley.
Nope, we
We're
accounted
good.
for this much, you're good.
Another question for you, if a company's already started to build a new facility and want to apply, do they have to have the application before they're starting this facility, or can they?
That's up to the county commission. There are plenty of projects that have started, and then they find out about, IRBs or, the EDX, and they can always apply.
Okay.
It's really discretionary with the county or the city as to whether you want to do it. A lot of communities will say, well, we have this but-for test, and the argument is, but for the incentives given, we wouldn't build it. Well, that's out the door. So, but you can, if it's, something that the county or the city would want to support, you can do it even though construction is commenced.
Like we don't do now. Okay. So step one would be getting the cost analysis.
No, that's on the company.
That's on the company.
But she has to
Right,
have
but
that.
step number one is really getting an application, getting a little bit of information
Okay.
about the company, and then Beth, I assume that you will assist on the cost benefit side, is that correct?
Yes, you are correct, Sarah.
So step one for you guys is
And-
determining if this is something you want to do, either one, both, and if so, establishing per Britt's recommendation, a policy and an application to formalize that.
What do you guys think about having the ability to do either or both? Whatever, either or, I guess I'm saying.
Well, I think if you can offer an industrial revenue bond, you're going to attract more people than just our neighborhood revitalization plan. If, because we don't know what's out there that people might be going, well, I need help to do this. And we're only offering a little bit, but they're looking at that big grasp, and that's the part that I think is very good, because honestly, there's really no cost to the city or the county in the aspect of it. We just have to draw up some type of a plan of how we're going to make this work.
But if we do the IRB and the EDX, have that available, that's two separate plans, correct?
Sir, if we
Yeah,
do,
you are required by law to have one for an EDX. You are not required to have a policy for an IRB,
Right.
but I can supply you examples
Okay.
of plenty of policies if that would be helpful.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah,
anytime you don't have to reinvent the wheel, it works pretty good.
bingo.
And
Yeah.
from my perspective, I think it helps to have at least a framework for the three of you or whoever may come after you to start with.
Yep.
When each project comes in, and that was my preference, to have a policy or a plan in place of, okay, these are the accepted projects, and then an application for them to fill out for both. Of here's the general information,
Yeah.
so that you have a framework to work off of, as opposed to a business just coming in saying, this is what I want to do. Okay, that sounds great. We'll give you the revenue bonds and start the process.
Right.
Okay.
And it also leads Jaleesa in the right direction when she has companies calling her looking to seek out our community. First, when they're looking at two communities, she can right off the bat know what we're going to offer in general terms.
And it can be, here's the policy, here's what applies, here's the application.
Well, that's what I always wanted, envisioned for you guys, is a one-stop shop. I mean, you have everything we offer, everything the city offers.
We would like that too.
Absolutely.
The easier the
Do
better.
you have an NRP right now?
Yes.
Yes,
So I have run into a situation where they started construction. They had not done the NRP application, which they had to do before construction started.
Correct.
And so they ended up using an IRB for but it's going to mirror what the exemption would have been under the NRP.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Which ours
Yeah.
would be a little bit different because we have some taxing entities that don't participate in the NRP. So the IRB is really a better deal. They're getting all the taxes back. Does that make sense?
That's the capital outlay levy.
Right. But
Yeah.
Well, I think it's
a good
I
idea.
think it's something we need to pursue. We got to be competitive, or we're going to get left in the dust.
so next steps, you want to get examples from her,
Yes.
send to Brett.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So Sarah, can you send our county attorney some examples of blueprints or plan of how to set these up? And then we can proceed from there.
Yeah, Ashley, could you send me the contact information?
Yep, I'll do that right now.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to.
Okay.
All right, sir. You've been helpful.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for letting me participate by phone.
Okay.
Okay, have a good day.
All
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
There we are.
We got something in motion again. So
Off
that,
and running. Yep.
we need to update our administration plan. Is that what this is?
What?
The second half of,
The interlocal agreement for the NRP.
okay. Extended also until the same as 2026.
Yes. So this is what we have to send into the Attorney General.
Okay. I entertain a motion to extend this, please.
I see that. Okay, I'll make a motion to extend the administration plan for the neighborhood revitalization.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to extend the administrative plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Fernandez will be in the room. Anything else need to be brought forth?
Our book here, our policy book.
5 and 6?
Yeah, and before we do that, I want to go back to page 34, section 4, or part 4. It has to do with sick leave. In part D there, or D, top of the page, maximum accrual. It says an employee may accrue a maximum of 288 hours of unused accrued paid sick leave throughout the year. If the paid sick leave is not taken prior to reaching the maximum accrual, it will be lost. An employee shall not be paid for sick leave hours that are lost. Okay, first of all, where'd the 288 come from?
That's been the number since,
Is the 288 able to be carried over from year to year?
yes.
Okay. So what are they losing? What is it when it says it will be lost?
So say somebody's at 288 and we have another accrual on that payroll. Anything that's over that they should have accrued, they just lose. They stay
You're not
right at
losing it
288.
because you can't accrue it. You're already done. You're maxed
You're at
up.
your max, right? But you're,
So to say you lose it, you're not losing it
well,
because you're maxed out.
You can only have 288 hours.
And that's
Anything
it.
above that,
And you don't gain anymore. So you're done. You're not losing anything.
you're losing what you could have accrued, what you should have accrued. Do you see what I'm saying?
No. If you're already if you're at 288, you're
We're
done.
saying the same thing.
You're
I get
done.
it.
It's a use it or lose it. So when you get up to the end of the year, if you have 282 hours of sick time already accrued.
Right.
And you've got 10 hours for this current year, you either have to use those excess hours or they're not gonna roll over. So it's a use it or lose it.
So you lose those 10 hours.
Okay, I don't like use it or lose it. It's nothing. I mean, I don't like it. Okay, so here's the deal. Here's what I'm thinking. You have a sick leave bank, correct?
We have a sick leave donation policy. So you have to have over a set amount of hours. Somebody has to apply for it. They have to run out of leave themselves.
Here's what I'd like to see, and this is just me. You guys will jump in. I'd like to see an accrued total of 480 hours, which is 3 months. If you go 160 hours a month, that's 3 months. You could be off, and that carries over every year. How many hours do you get every month?
8.
Okay, so you get a day a month. Keep that the same, but raise it to 480. And the people who donate can say, you go back to the analysis, well, you're going to lose it. You're at 480, but you're going to lose it. There's no losing it. If you want to donate, 80 hours, you're at 480 and you want to donate 80, you're going to get that back. And that can go into the sick leave bank. See what I'm saying? If you're already maxed out, but only if you're maxed out.
So I get what you're saying. What comes to potentially be a problem is that liability. So it's just a liability that's sitting out there. So say somebody donates from the clerk's office 80 hours, but somebody from the appraiser's office uses that 80. It's going to count against her budget. You see what I mean? When it comes to being used, instead of being tracked back to.
So it already.
I don't know how you're gonna.
Right.
Or if you track it back to the clerk's office, what year is it going to be used in? And then that's going to screw that person's budget up. I don't know. Can we think that one through a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But overall, you want to increase the max.
Yeah. I mean, it's 288. That's not.
Which we also have short-term disability also. That kicks in after 2 weeks.
But I guess I'm coming from a 960 hour deal.
For the city?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And did they pay it out at all at the end?
They paid out half of it.
Okay.
So yeah.
so they
And I'm not
480.
suggesting. Yeah, you'd get 480 hours when you leave if you were maxed out. It'd take you 10 years to get 960 hours if you don't miss any work. But I'm just thinking, 3 months is a nice cushion to have if if you can get up to that and you have it there if you need it the whole time you work. It's a little perk that's not gonna cost the county any extra. I mean, especially if they don't use it, but it's there. Something to think about. I just don't think 288 hours is diddly. I don't think it's enough. You have back surgery or something like that. I mean, or some unforeseen thing, that's gonna go by pretty quick. So that's all I had on that. Let's see.
I had one on section 5 on 5-4, the cell phone policy,
I flagged that too.
and section 2, what about hands-free equipment?
You wanna say that hands-free is okay?
Well, you know, if you cannot use the cell phone and they have hands-free, or, you know, I don't think the road graders will come in with plug it into your radio yet, but it's coming.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really get the whole policy, but I mean, I get the idea behind it. But it's like, who's policing this? I mean,
I think it's more of a, if an accident happens and you're found to have been on your phone, then
right. I mean, if everybody thinks it's okay, whatever, but.
What do you want to change it to, Ron?
No, I don't know. I was just thinking of the guys out in the field, you know, that out on the graders and this and that. And there's stuff you don't want to talk about over on the radio. So what are you going to do? You're going to use your cell phone, you know. To say you can't use your cell phone is absurd.
so do you wanna change it to allow hands-free?
I'm okay with that.
Because
Yeah.
it's in the trucking industry, it's a, I don't know, federal or state law that I don't know, like custom harvesters and over the road truckers, they cannot use their cell phone, but they can have hands free.
Right.
And
Yeah, I think we should probably update it to that.
okay.
There's little stuff on 5-6 anti-tobacco policy. And I think this is actually, after I flagged it, I think it was addressed somewhere. They're talking about smoking in the county vehicles and buildings and whatnot. And that should include equipment as well. But I think I ran across it later. Yeah, all vehicles owned or rented by the county are non-smoking
Right.
vehicles.
So
Which would imply equipment as well, but it doesn't say that. Um, 5-9 on page 54, clear at the bottom, issuance of equipment. Employees may be issued county-owned equipment to use in the performance of their jobs. Each employee is required to return county-owned equipment to the county. Okay, and then what? Failure to do so is, can it be taken out of their pay? Or what's the law say?
So what I would like to have, I don't know if it's addressed in there or not, I think it's one of the things that I have flagged for him is like a issuance form that says, this is the person's name, what they were issued, down to the uniforms, how many, and the cost associated with that. So
Yeah.
like a replacement cost value.
Yeah.
And then they sign it saying, can they do that? Like saying, my radio wasn't returned, it's worth this much, it's coming out of my last paycheck. So.
Yep, that sounds reasonable. Just have to have a way to track it and document it, that they actually received it, they have it, but they didn't turn it in.
But it would be a universal form that all departments would use, that we would have in here, that when that person resigns, we have it, and we can go over it with that department of, did they turn this in?
Yeah.
But it needs to be updated throughout their employment if something else is issued to them.
Yep.
So.
Okay. That sounds good. Section 7 on the next page, page 55. They talk about reimbursement for personal vehicle use. Are employees, staff, are they required to take a county vehicle if one is available, if they're going to a seminar or school?
I think it says in there that it's preferred or encouraged, is how it said. So it used to be the mileage was paid, if the county vehicle was available and you chose to take your own, mileage was only paid one way instead of both ways. Now, if the county vehicle wasn't available and you took your own, it was paid both.
How can we clean that up? What would be is it okay like this, or?
Well, when you have your section C in that, the vehicle mileage only reimbursed prior to approval of the supervisor. So you've got something there that the supervisor would say, okay, did you apply for or see if you could use a county vehicle? And the supervisor would know, okay, you're going to, a DOT training in this place. I don't see that, it needs to be changed, and especially where your reimbursement must be submitted to the county clerk.
Right. So just leave it alone?
I think.
Yeah. Okay. 5-12, business expense policy.
Okay with the dress code?
I have no problems with it,
The only time I ever had a problem with the dress code when I had to deal with this stuff is if we were paying for uniforms for a guy and he didn't wear them. That used to not sit well with me, because once you're locked into the contract, you're going to pay,
Right.
and the guy don't want to wear them. It's like, I don't know. Currently, okay, on per diem, do we have a fixed amount per day that an employee can spend on meals?
It's per meal, and then it depends on within 250 miles or outside of 250 miles. Just 250, 150.
250? That's a long
That seems like
ways.
a lot. Maybe it's 150.
I was going to say.
I know. If, like if you're coming back from Hayes or something, you had. Okay, so I always had a problem with people coming back after a meeting and then they stop and eat in Colby. It's like, really? You couldn't make it another
30 minutes.
30 some miles, I think there needs to be, I've seen instances, not lately, but I've seen instances where things get a little extravagant, and because there's no maximum. I don't, I always felt like
No
if you get
different.
so much a day, I don't care if you don't want to eat breakfast and you want to save it up for a bigger dinner at night, fine. But you get this much a day and that's it.
But
You
there's
go-
maximums per meal.
A maximum. If you
There
want to
is
say
a
a
maximum.
maximum
There is
per,
maximums.
okay, maximums per meal so that you do have, at the end of the day, you just can't go over what those three add up to. Is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying per meal. If, say you're outside of 150 miles, breakfast is $10, lunch is 16, dinner is 20. So if your breakfast is $12 instead of the 10, the $2 gets deducted from your paycheck. It's not a per day, it's per meal. Here's your amounts.
You like that?
Yes and no. I don't really like the per diem because then how am I supposed to track if you're at a conference and they serve what meals? Are you gonna give me an agenda that I know what meals that they're providing to you? How do you pay $50 and then,
Right. You didn't have to spend any.
right,
And legally to track that, if you just gave an employee $50, now that's going to be considered income.
they're getting taxed on it.
Yep. Okay.
Which, if you have a one-day training, if you're not spending overnight, like EMS on their transfers, they're getting taxed on those.
Right.
Jail on transfers, they're getting taxed on those, unless they're spending overnight.
Okay.
I do think we need to look at the amounts if we're gonna stick with this, or either go straight across the board, not worry about the mile radius.
Well, the one that I recall when I was working ambulance, way back when at the hospital, we had to take a patient to Colby. Well, it took longer than anticipated. They said it was going to be a 4-hour procedure and us to wait. Well, 9.5 hours later, I come back. Well, the policy said anything over 100 miles. Well, I was within the 100-mile radius, so
So it was on your own.
I was on my own.
I'm saying instead of so like within 150 miles, breakfast is $7.50. Outside of 150, it's 10. If we can get rid of that,
That's-
just one amount for breakfast,
Oh,
one
yeah.
amount for lunch, and one for dinner,
Yeah, 100.
that would help me.
Yeah.
Instead of Googling directions from each place that
No.
everybody went.
No.
How far is Hayes? Well, Hayes is right at 150, so
Right.
you count it which way.
Did you eat on the far side of Hayes or
Did you go into town or were you right on the
Yeah.
edge?
Yeah. No, you don't want that.
No, I don't.
I think we just do a flat rate of,
If you're okay with so much per meal, just take out the mileage stuff. Okay. And just set if it's want to be $10, it's $10 for breakfast, no matter where you're at. Right?
Okay.
Now, do you think that's enough?
No. 10? No.
it's
Well, we're changing it, so we're going to change it. Let's
Yeah.
change it.
12. What's a number, for
So
You're about $12 and gone.
EMS's meal allowance
Yeah.
is 15.
Okay.
They went from 12.50 to 15. Now, I don't know if you go 15 for breakfast, where that puts you for lunch and dinner. But
Well, you're going up $5 for breakfast, so
that would do 15 for breakfast, 21 for lunch, and 25 for dinner.
that's
I think that sounds fairly reasonable.
well, it's at least we're increasing it.
My next question is, these changes, outside of the one that we did for the cap, you know what I mean, for the 75% accrual, are you wanting these, like this change effective immediately or effective when we do all the revisions in the handbook?
Well, there's not a big rush. On this, is there?
Okay.
And just yeah.
That's all that I need.
I recall once in an accounts payable, we paid for somebody's meal delivery charges. Nah.
You're not gonna Uber it or food?
No.
If you're hungry, you gotta go get
You're
it?
too lazy to go get a meal? I mean, really?
To me, that would be considered like, same as like a room service charge. You
Pretty
go down
much.
and get it now.
I don't think that's necessary. So that would fall under receipts, I guess, here. That's just my opinion. What's everybody else think?
I think you're correct on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to add that, make sure that meal delivery charges and room service will not be paid by the county. Got it? Good.
Got
All right.
I do have one question on 5.4 or 5.13.4.
Okay.
Basically, on that statement, we're giving head of departments dinner and a disaster a blank check, and we can't do that.
Disaster declaration. If the Board of County Commissioners approve a disaster declaration in the county, department heads are given authorization to make purchases in order to carry on business of their departments. All expenses will be tracked within the county clerk's office. So we have spending limits for each department.
And I know we don't want them to come in during disaster and say every $1,500 because it's going to be spending no more than that. Okay, but there's going to be times where they may have to call the state and the state's going to send it in and we have a $25,000 bill.
Yeah.
And I think those type of expenses need to come through the commissioners.
The biggest,
Those are actually handled through the team, because you are supposed to be there or actually.
you have a financial team.
You act as
Yep.
a financial, in emergency declaration, that person kind of acts as an oversight for the commission.
One of the biggest horror stories I heard was down in Greensburg. Was people were just kind of winging it and trying to do the best they could, and we're gonna need a crane for this, and we're gonna need dozers, and here comes all this equipment, and you're not ready for it for a week and a half, and you're paying every day for that piece of equipment, and there it sits. So that's why, like Burton says, you have teams that it's got to be very structured, very structured.
But it's not, but according to this, that's not the way it's structured here.
No, this isn't worded.
That's for the expenses of each department. The major expenses, like what you talked about, comes through the general fund, so that's actually through the declaration of the.
What you're saying is that each department, so you know that you have a $25,000 or $5,000 limit right now for that department. So the department head or the supervisor would know, okay, we're going to bump up against that 5,000 for this disaster declaration. Well, you're already going to say we need to go talk to the financing team to look at that. So I think if we refer back to section 2 of the cost of it, then the supervisors in each department would, have
Anybody that's been trained with FEMA stuff it thinks this way, that you're going to have your teams.
right.
So this doesn't really spell it out in those terms.
Yeah.
I think, Harvey, if you wanted to put a dollar amount on it, in section 4, you could put like a estimated expenses beyond 10,000 would need to come to the emergency operations center for approval by the commission or financial team or whatever you want to call it. If you want to set a dollar amount, I just wouldn't make it super low or else you're going to be.
Yeah, I agree. It shouldn't be very low, but
You're going to be hounded.
I mean,
You don't want everybody going out there doing $200,000 requests.
that's right. And they shouldn't, but
They shouldn't.
But they're gonna have to increase their budget some,
Well,
because they're gonna have to call in, they're gonna have to call in all their personnel, for sure. So, I mean, I can understand where they need more leeway than what we've given in section 1, but at the same time, I don't wanna hand out a blank check. And to me, that section 4 gives them a blank check, so that's just my feeling.
Or you could also do it when you pass the emergency or the emergency
Declaration.
resolution. You can put it in that resolution, what the spending limits are
I think that would
at
be
that
a
time.
better idea of, you have to have that declaration declared before you
Mhm.
can, and then you're looking at whether we have a 10,000 or remain at the 5,000, whatever it might be for.
So would we just then take section 4 completely out then in that case?
That's what I would say. If you're gonna, yeah.
If we're gonna move it and put it in the other one, there's no sense in having it
What's it
here.
say directly above in section 3? Large expense approval. Department heads must receive approval from the Board of County Commissioners if the expense is more than their respective limits. See, that's,
Or we could include in section 4, spending limits, maximum spending limits may be included in the county declaration resolution. That way it
Well,
doesn't
I
necessarily
think
have to
you-
be in there, or.
I think you have to have something in there that when the disaster declaration is issued, that they know that, okay, you're gonna have a spending limit yet unless it is approved by the financial board.
how about if you put in there just basically, if the disaster has been declared, they refer to the disaster declaration plan for expenditures.
Any department expenditures be governed by the emergency declaration.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Because actually during the declaration, you could change that during your vote, or whatever,
Oh, yeah.
while you're discussing that. So
Well, yeah, because you would.
we know we're gonna be doing this with this department, you could actually, amend
And that
it or-
could change depending on what type of disaster you have.
Right.
If you have, a tornado that wipes out every county facility is gonna be much different than a large blizzard that lasts 2
Yep.
weeks.
Yeah, I like that.
Department expenditures during a disaster will be governed by the disaster declaration. Something like that. Sounds my lawyer answer.
So that's my lawyer.
Sounds good. Sounds like a lawyer answer.
That's really all I had. The rest of this stuff is safety stuff,
Like the lockout policies.
lockout, tag out, all that stuff. That's,
Respirators.
that's all I've got.
Good.
What's the timeline on all the changes in that?
Is that the last section?
That's the last
Okay.
section.
Yeah, that was it.
So he's been pretty good about it. So I'll get the last few sections over to him. And then the other thing that would take is the forms that he has to get together for us that we don't have right now. So I would think,
The handbook references a lot of forms that were never
Right.
included with the handbook.
Oh, yeah.
so I would say,
I'd say the end of December,
oh,
you
Yeah.
think,
I'd say January,
January,
Yeah.
so it'd be effective probably
February.
first of February.
Is there any chance that we could review it? Department head,
We do what?
that we can review, look at what's proposed?
I would say it'd be a good idea.
Then look at that and see. Because you look at it through a different set of eyes than what we do.
Get the quote unquote final draft done, let department heads look at it, see if there's any suggestions from there, and then
And you guys are probably changing some stuff. I mean, is there like statutes and stuff that have changed or?
He reviews that. He's already done that review.
Okay. Okay. All right.
There is that section on COVID-19 that we may have to update on that. I mean, even if you have COVID, procedures and stuff, we might take a look at that
Jenny might have to look at that.
and see what changes need to be taken.
Okay.
Make sure Jenny from the health department looks at that. All right.
I request a short break, please. I'll be right back. If I'm not back, start without me.
Yeah, I think Steve could do that. Well, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Come on up.
Well, it's you again.
It's me again. How are you, Rob?
Well, good.
Good.
Thank you.
Very best outside.
This must be serious if we got a note page.
You know,
I know.
I did that at a meeting and I had people say, I like that, because then I could just stick it in my folder so I've been doing that since I was here last. And nothing.
See, I write on the back of the agenda.
See, you do what I do. So, but it's kind of helped my office staff too, because then they can look.
Yep.
But now I have to make sure I write better. I can't, nobody knows my little shorthand. But they,
I think a lot of people are forgetting how to write.
my granddaughter is 7, and she came in and she goes, they call me Ronnie. She goes, Ronnie, do you know how to write cursive? And I said, yes. And she says, I want to learn and they don't teach. The teacher says we're not going to learn it in school. I said, I know, I heard that. So she goes, well, you teach me. So you remember those books we had in school where you just keep writing I'm going to see if I can find one of those where she can practice. Because she goes,
Yep.
I want to learn how to write.
Well, yeah.
I had no idea that they didn't have in school.
Penmanship used to be a big deal.
Oh, yeah. But she's really, she had me write her name so she could practice. She sat there at the island in the kitchen and practiced. She did pretty good for 7 years old.
Well, that's good.
It's going to be an issue in school.
Yeah.
Is writing now basic or not? Because with all the AI coming in, they can speak into it and it will print it all out. They don't even have to write anymore.
That's exactly right.
And I think that's a shame.
It is. We know that writing, music, and PE go together and help the reading process.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't teach those, your reading is hindered by that.
There'll be sections of the brain that get shut off.
And reading's so important. And
It is.
she's excited because she just loves to come over and read a book to me now. So it's so fun. But yeah, she wanted to learn how to write cursive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's almost a dying art, isn't it?
I thought, oh my gosh. And really, I know that you do a lot of documents where you pick a signature. I just really have a problem thinking, how are you going to really identify that was the right person with all of this if you can't see their true signature? I don't know. I guess I'm a little old fashioned on that. But,
Well, even with in the computer, when you
do that.
do the signature part, it's not written anymore.
I know. I don't like to do that. I'd rather print that page off, sign and then scan it back. But some places don't like that.
Okay. Oh, we got to take notes this time.
Yes, we do.
Well, just in case.
There will be a test at the end.
We'll also check your penmanship. Just kidding.
Well, we will just.
All right. Well, on the right-hand side of your packet, we've got reports. We're close to getting our renewals, so we're going to go through those this morning. And on the first page there, mine are sticking together. Just, I always like to put the things that we like people to have done. And that's the wellness side. So we've got the Affordable Care Act preventative services that we've had this year. And so if you just kind of look through real quickly, you can see we're ahead on some things. A few things, again, like the colorectal screenings, we've had more this year, which these are good dollars spent. We've had 65 the immunizations, so people are kind of getting caught up on some of those, it looks like. Preventative pharmaceutical 2, preventative checkups 42, 56 eye exams. So, again, these are the good dollars spent, keeping people healthy. So we're not too far behind on some things, but some things we're higher on. So it's just good to see where we've been. This year versus the last year, we've spent about the same amount of money on those, $47,845. Last year was $47,850. So we're neck and neck. And then the prior year, only $38,000, that past prior, which would have been, coming right off COVID. So it looks like we're kind of catching up again and getting things taken care of. On the cost share page, on page 2, we're going to kind of follow across here, that first section. I think that tells us the most of what kind of as we're looking at renewal, where we're at and where we've been. The current plan year, just if you want to go across with me on the plan paid line, current year on medical, $2,588,000. The prior year, $786,000, and the past prior, $1,404,000. So you can see we have kind of as we talked last time, we've kind of had a rough start and rough middle of the year. Our pharmacy dollars are up a little bit as well, close to $400,000. Last year we were about $350,000, and the prior year $340,000. So this year our total spend $2,987,738. Last year we had a great year, $1,136,248, and the past prior $1,744,055. So again, I guess the old saying is, out of 5 years, you're going to have either 3 good or 3 bad.
Yeah.
And, really, we've had, several really good years, and we're just hitting a bump. So that's part of it. That's why you have insurance, but not what you want to hear in your budgets and that. And no one wants to be the one that's sick. So, So, and we'll go on to the high cost members. And again, this is just to kind of show you on page. You have questions, Rod, there before we Steve or Harvey?
Nope.
Okay. All right. On page 3, you can see we've got obviously an individual stop loss that's pretty high this year. Obviously, these are de-identified. We don't know who it is. We don't care. It's just a matter of kind of documenting where the dollars are being spent. Your current plan year, again, we've got $1,500,000, almost $1,600,000 on some dependents. Pharmacy is very low there, but the total plan paid is $1,500,000. So if you go down, then the next person, we had 198% of the stop loss. And just keep going down. We've got several right up there at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6, 7 of them that are over 100% and upwards of that in the percentage of stop loss that we've had. So again, you've got your stop loss in place. So once that's hit, the county's no longer on the risk for any claims. They just affect our renewal, and based on your credibility, what percentage of that they will look at, if it's ongoing or not, those kinds of things. So as we look at the renewal, I'll have a meeting with Blue Cross. We'll kind of talk through. Again, they won't tell us anything about who it is or anything, but they'll just tell us, again, we've given some consideration if there is any, and we'll request. We have a term, any terms or anybody that's no longer with the county, that they take a look at that again. These reports come out, and sometimes once the renewal comes out, we want them to make sure they check all of those things, and they're pretty good about that, but we'll double check that. So we've got, again, quite a few on this list for this time period. So hopefully we have some people who've gotten healthier as they went through their medical procedures, and some of those will come off. So, or at least get some consideration. On page 5, you'll see our top diagnosis categories for the group for the year, and you can just kind of look through there and kind of see again where that money is being spent. Part of this top diagnosis, we do have 92 preventative care services, so that's great. But there's obviously others that are not preventative on here. Our chronic conditions on page 6, if you see an asterisk on this left-hand side, those are conditions that when you happen to get a claim, have a claim or a prescription due to that diagnosis, Blue Cross has their RNs on staff and their physicians that are there for questions and to help you maybe set up a plan of how to take care of that illness, how to follow the procedures that your doctor is suggesting. If it's something new, if nothing else, kind of help you understand maybe some things once you got home from the physician's office to help you understand how to do the best you can to deal with the illness or try to mitigate some other things from happening.
But what happens, okay, here, see this scenario, a doctor prescribes you a medication. Blue Cross denies it, says you don't need it. Who determines at Blue Cross who needs it? How do they override a doctor?
A lot of times it's because they need some medical notes. They want to usually make sure you've taken and tried the least expensive medication first.
Yeah.
And so if you have already done that, a lot of times it's your physician going to bat for you and saying, this is the reason that we are going to this medication. We've tried this. And so you basically went through the steps, and this is your last,
last option.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or maybe it's not covered under their formulary, and is there another medication that they would see if the doctor would allow?
Gotcha.
It's something, again, that starts with your physician getting the data in there, getting those medical notes, getting that into Blue Cross as quick as possible. And everybody's swamped at the doctor's offices, and it sometimes takes a little bit. So if your doctor can get you something to get you through till that process gets going, it's the best thing.
Okay.
Again, it's all about the dollars, Rod.
Yeah.
Making sure that you didn't start with that if there's other
Right.
things.
Right.
And maybe you have other medications that prevent you from taking some of those things. So, just being your own advocate with your provider, or if, somebody has questions on that, we're happy to help them, through that.
Like the insurance companies have doctors
They do
that they bounce all this off of.
peer review,
Yeah.
peer-to-peer review.
Okay.
So, and again, that's not a fun situation, but you just got to take a breath. Most of the time it gets through in some way or another.
Yeah.
But it's just, again, did we do everything
Yeah,
we can to
because
save?
You take certain drugs, one person can take them and they work fine, and the next person takes them and they have a reaction to them, and so you got to go on down the list.
Yeah, and that's not fun for the patient either
No.
to have to do that. But
Well, try this one and see if it works.
then you start feeling like a
Yeah.
guinea pig, and you're like,
Try this and see.
But
if
it is hard. My bookkeeper retired here a couple of years ago, but even just going from, she was on so many medications, going from a name brand to generic, just because of her other medications, she wouldn't be able to take that one. So it was just a constant.
Yeah.
Helping her through some of that taught me a lot about this process, I guess.
Yep.
But yes, that does happen. But if they have questions, people can call us. The key is to get to Blue Cross, talk to them, so your doctor can get involved as quick as possible.
Okay.
On page 7, these are a couple pages I'm going to make sure we look at on a quarterly basis as we go through everything throughout the year. Because I think it's important, especially this year, based on our claims history. When you look at the distinct member count line on the left-hand side and follow me across, at first, look clear at the very end, and you'll see that we have 236 bodies on your plan. That's including dependents. So we have 36 people back to the left that have had 0 claims this year. 0. we have 42 of those 236 who have had, we've had 100 people that have had less than 1,000 there. So that's 136 people that haven't even, hit their 50-50 at this point. And then 69 people that are between 1,000 and 10,000. So they could have, maybe hit their share, maybe not, of the 1,500. We've had 24 that have went over 10,000. We've had 3 that have went over 50 and 4 that have went over 100,000 this year. So again, so your spends in those last 2 columns, about 7 claimants are where your dollars are going. Mm-hmm. So if nothing else, it's kind of reassuring to know that, hey, your group is really pretty healthy. It's just, again, which is what we have insurance for. It's there for those big things when you need it. And then the prior year, I've just kind of got that down below. We had 258 at that point on the plan. And again, we had 4 over the 50,000 last year. So we've got 3 more than we did last year. But again, we had a lot of people under the 10,000 mark and about 160 or 50 something over the 1,000 or under the 1,000. So we had about 50% that didn't hit anything to speak of last year that you would have paid out of your fund. So, and then again, we're going to go with kind of our first page, our current, prior, and our past prior year. And that year we had 257 on the plan, which is on page 9. And again, we had the majority of our people, about 50% of them had less than $1,000. So, when you look at that, that's a lot of people that are pretty healthy and not, so it's kind of reassuring that to kind of think it seems like it should be claims that would be spread across everybody, but it's really not. It's just that small percentage of your group that's, unfortunate that happens to have.
Well, that's the good thing is that, for 11% of the population is used the most, and the other 89% are
just doing regular things.
Right.
And Harvey, you mentioned COVID a little bit ago when you were going through that, and we always now will have a COVID report as we have for the last 3 years. We had billed amount about $24,000, but Blue Cross paid $16,000 of that with the write-off. So we still have those claims, and you can kind of see at the bottom that that we had a spike in November last year, and this report is matching our renewal year when they cut that off, by the way. So that's why we're kind of comparing this close to where we're at on that renewal. Right. So last year we had kind of a rough year in October and November, and then August was we even had 10 COVID claims in August. So it's kind of leveling off, but we're going to see those peaks and valleys as we go on. On page 11 is the telehealth, and I think it's kind of nice to just see that this is a inexpensive way to help save the county money, and helps you when you can't get out or you're traveling or your kids are away in college or whatever. But it's nice to have, you don't have to go to the ER. I travel a lot. I'm on the road, and I've used it several times in the last 5 or 6 years. Just it's easier to call in when I have a sinus infection at night when I get back in, that kind of thing. So you can kind of compare the member encounter for the current prior and the past prior, the encounters and the plan paid. And this year, the plan has paid $11,424. The usage, again, per average claimant is not an expensive visit at all. It's more like a $79 visit versus, a doctor's visit of $125. So again, you're getting some usage there, and then it's just another resource for people to get care. The top providers, I always like to share this with you guys so you know that people are, using for one thing, your hospital, 259 claims here in Goodland. Your pharmacy in Goodland is I think it's your only one here, but your top one. And just
we
kind
have
of
two pharmacies. There is a second pharmacy.
Is it still downtown?
Well, it's
It's by the hospital,
by the hospital.
Okay.
medical arts.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And so you just keep kind of look through that and see where people are going for care. You've got some people kind of little bit all over the state, and of course, you usually have a couple in Colorado. So
Put it this way, when they have claims, that's not necessarily people, right?
that's claim counts. So you could have one person have
Person
several
doing
claims.
this or-
Yeah, exactly. And they could all be on one person, or they could be broken out. On page 13, I always want to share with you too. You guys have a very nice plan, and you also pay 100% for your employees. So it's nice to know that they do have some skin in the game with their out of pocket. And this year, under the deductible, you have a 50-50 plan, so you will all be under co-insurance. But your employees have also paid $120,910 out of their pocket in their cost share. So with the co-pays added in there, total of $153,000. So again, that's a lot of money as well. So they have that to deal with. On the pharmacy utilization side, and this is happening everywhere. If you'll look on page 14 under the total paid at the very top, you will see that our prescriptions are up 426,000 versus 379 and 371. And that's just due to some of the new medications on that people are taking. And if you'll flip to page 15, you'll see why. The Stelara, which is a new medication, it's been out for a little bit, but it's been becoming more popular. I think I have this in about every group now, but it's about $150,000 a year. So kind of scary. But I don't know if I mentioned this to you last time I was here, but we had our first generic drug that on a group that was $66,000 for a generic drug per month.
Wow.
Per month for generic. So I mean, there's a lot of. I set in every once in a while when I can on the pharmacy. A call that presentation that they do monthly with different pharmacy vendors and what's coming out. And the medications that are coming out that are cures, we're seeing more of those, but the costs are just astronomical. I mean, millions of dollars. And and again, how insurance carriers and how some of these are going to play out. But, you also look at a long-term illness. How much is that costing over time? Not only to the plan, but on somebody's body. Too. So anyway, so again, you're not any exception to the rule here on anything. The Enbrel's been around for a while, and we are, I can't remember if it's Enbrel or Humira. This will be the year in 24 that we'll start seeing some generic versions. So when those happen, that's nice because the cost does come down some. But just so you're aware, there's some pretty high dollar drugs there. But go to page 16, the light here at the end of the tunnel, maybe your average age on your group is 31. Blue Cross's average age is 36 on their book of business. So I'm sitting here, I'm going to just pretend I'm in that 31 category today.
Yeah. You're only 29, so you're close.
Hey,
you got 2 more years.
Yeah, we're all right there, right? On the cost share on the dental, we're just neck and neck with what we were last year on page 17. You're running just normal on the dental. And again, right below that, you've got your Goodland Dental Arts is right up here. And I know Burlington's always been on there. So you can just kind of look down here and see this is where people are going for their dental care. So all in all, we've got a bump in the road. I don't know how big a bump it's going to be yet. I've talked to Hadley, renewals in the works. So I guess if it's not pretty, maybe we don't want to look at it till after Christmas. But if I get it before, you guys know I'll bring it out.
Yes.
So we can prepare. So, and then on the left-hand side, always got to give you some news. And COVID is part of this news. Some of the things, obviously, since we're past that disaster or pandemic era. So there's on page 2 there a little bit about COVID. The November American Diabetes Month, and a little bit of our health and wellness as well, Work Well Peas. And they always have a recipe. This is one I might want to try, this pumpkin pancakes. I like pancakes, so that might be a good one. The benefits buzz, again, this affects Ashley's office, keeping up to date on all of those changes on benefits. We did the gag clause recently with Blue Cross. Ashley had to log in and answer a few questions, so Blue Cross could take care of that. So that's been taken care of. ACA reporting information instructions are starting to come out for 24. The HR brief on the next page is, again, ACA reporting. EEOC releases enforcement plan for 24 through 28 enforcement. So that's going to affect some of our clients. The flexible spending account, you guys have pretty good participation in that. In 2024, when we renew March, employees will be able to go to having 3,200 out of their, put in their flex plan if they want to. That sounds like a lot of money, but it's I have a lot of people already jumping in on that because it's tax-free money. And then in 25, you'll be able to roll over $640 into the 26 to the 25 plan. And this year it's $610. So as we get close to that, we'll be providing a report to Ashley so we can see who's has more than that 610 in there. So we don't want them to lose any money.
Yeah.
So and then they have 90 days after. So if we renew March or May, so they can any claims incurred prior to March 1, they can file up to the end of May.
Okay.
So if they happen to have something last minute, like a surgery or go out and buy glasses or contacts, didn't get the receipt, they still have some time to submit those. And on the back is, kind of what we're dealing with today. I have seen my highest renewals in about 4 years this renewal season. And so you can just check that out and see that healthcare costs will grow by 8.5% is kind of what they're saying in the next year, which is the highest it's been. It's been 6 and 7%, so it's going up too. I have had a 48% renewal. I've had a 28% renewal. Even if I've seen just kind of flat renewals, but it's still going up about 5%. If they're running about 80% loss ratio. So just kind of preparing. And again, as soon as I have information, I will be getting on your agenda so we can start planning. And we've been a grandfather plan, which is kept that out of pocket down for your employees. Let's see, the new out of pocket on some plans is up to $17,000, I believe $500 on a family. On the marketplace plans and that kind of thing, and half of that on a single. $6,350 and $12,700 has been there for a while, and I have a lot of groups with that now. You guys obviously have the $1,500 and $3,000 out of pocket. So hopefully we won't have to make a lot of changes, but I will, depending on the renewal.
What percentage did we go up last year?
We did go up a little bit last year because we had
11? Was it 11 or 15? It was a decent, but we had some decent claims.
Yeah. So I'm hoping for some consideration. I'm hoping some of these larger claims we might have some. But again, I'll be meeting with Hadley soon and we'll be talking. I will be prepared with some options just in case. I know it's hard to change, and my grandfather plans have been the most solid. I mean, when we've had changes, they've been, way easier to handle. Once you go to the non-grandfathered side, you would think because you have so much more out of pocket, the renewals would be better, but they have not been nearly as good as that grandfathered. But, as time goes on, I've had groups move just to be able to even offer more than one option. So you could have an option maybe that the county pays 100%, and if you want employees to be able to buy up to a better, lower, less out of pocket, they can choose to do that. And sometimes that's been a reason for groups to go to a non-grandfather plan, just to give some options and take a little bit of that cost off of the county. It's hard to make those changes, but we'll be prepared for whatever you guys want to look at. So,
Okay.
Very good.
and that's
Thank
all
you.
I have. And I wonder what Paula's going to do with this. You know, because I'm really bad too till I get in the car and I do this. But once I have the renewal, I make way more notes. But anything else that you guys need or think we should look at for renewal this year? I don't know what you have budgeted. If there's an amount that we want to kind of keep in mind as we're looking, Ashley.
Go over that.
Okay, we'll talk about that. So we can kind of prepare, you know, for the.
We kind of know what's coming, I think, so.
Okay. Well, I'd rather you know what's coming than come in and say,
Good.
oh, by the
Wait,
way.
Where'd this come from?
Nothing's been going on, so, and here you go. And, you know, sometimes that is the case if it's a last minute, you know, but we'll be talking again soon and see where we're at. All right, thanks for your time today, and we'll talk probably sometime mid-December. That's kind of been about when we've been getting it, so. All right, we'll see you soon.
All right.
Drive carefully.
Appreciate your time. Burton, are you next? Okay, I thought they, you wait.
Do you want to be next?
Mhm.
You do first. You do that.
Sure. Anything else that needs to?
If you, yeah, it's not on the agenda, but if you have a few minutes for Burton and Blaine. Blaine has a quote from DigiTicket. It's a software program along with the hardware, the computers, and everything that goes with it. In a nutshell, it streamlines the process of writing citations. It allows for automatic upload to the court system when it's working. But it gives the officers the access to tools, quick access to statutes. It eliminates handwriting. It comes with scanning software, so instead of manually inputting your driver's license information, you scan the driver's license, puts everything in there. It automatically works with the court calendars, produces your court date. It's a lot more efficient. You know, it doesn't happen often, but every once in a while on handwritten tickets, we get some tickets that the wrong information is written down. We have a couple of magistrate judges that will just dismiss it based on that. So it's not cheap by any means, but I think it's necessary. It streamlines that process, saves them time on the side of the road. But I think the purchase for 7 sets of everything is about a little over $25,000, and then annual fee of a little over $4,000. So $25,000 is the upfront. That buys all your laptops, the printers, everything that would go in the vehicles, as well as the licenses. And then that $4,000 is your annual maintenance and license fees and everything that you would pay every year thereafter. So
It'll be
28,000.
if we're gonna do the court thing. Right.
Yeah.
With Odyssey.
That's right, 'cause it's
2003, Tyler has a $1,000 startup to get it, the interface to the license.
Now, would this cost be a shared cost with anybody, or is this just coming out of yours?
With that, but you had some funds or something?
What's that?
You had some funds?
We didn't talk about that.
Okay.
He just asked if I'd support it, and I support it.
Well, do you really support his way?
Well, the way I look at it is that it's a useful tool for them. KHP has it. I can't remember if PD has it or not.
They got it.
They
But
use a different system. It's not ticket for PD, but they use it.
Similar.
What's nice about it is if you're on the weekend and you go home, you don't have to worry about turning in tickets, anything like that. If you're going home, you can still write tickets and it'll automatically upload to the server. So then it's there for the court Monday morning, so that they don't have to wait. The guy's coming in to pay the ticket right away. It's there.
and there's other tools, but there's NCIC access that can run warrant checks based off the driver's license scan. different things like that. But I think it's a useful tool in the area of technology. No offense to Blaine, but he's got terrible handwriting like I do, so sometimes trying to read those tickets isn't the easiest.
Not the worst, though.
Not the worst, I'll give you that. So I guess I'm giving my support to approve that, and given that that's not necessarily a budgeted item, my suggestion for you guys to consider would be to pay the upfront cost from the general fund, but then the yearly renewals would obviously then be budgeted out of
And they don't start until next.
till next year.
I can still put,
And there is a
25 for actually paying it.
there is a lease option with it, but if I was looking at that, I think it's about $1,200 a year, and so
12,000.
or $12,000. Sorry, $12,000 a year. So
What's
if you
10?
go, if you go, I don't do math. That's what I'm if you go 2 years, just leasing it, you've paid for it. So now, granted, with the lease, you can spread it up into monthly payments or whatever, but in 2 years, you purchase the system.
Yeah.
There are warranties that go along with the printers and everything else. And
Now the soft, like, you're paying for $4,000 a year for like software.
It's
Updates.
mainly the software and the interfaces
Yeah.
and the licenses for the software.
Okay.
And that I can put in the budget next year for 2025.
as well as maintenance, obviously, software upgrades and everything else will take care of all that.
Yep. Okay.
Like I said, I knew it wasn't on the agenda, but Blaine did finally get the quote from Digiticket, so.
And this is kind of the most popular company that's been used.
Yeah,
Or-
HP uses it, so it's very, very reliable.
Well, what do you guys think?
We have room in our
It'll save you
budget
a lot
to
of
do
time.
that. And
It will save us a lot of time on the road. I mean, we can just scan the stuff and then automatically auto-populate. We can go in and click our statutes. Thomas County has it, and they went from about a 10 to 14 minute traffic stop down to 6.5 to 7 minutes.
The statistics that Digiticket provides say that you cut your time on the side of the road about in half with being able to do that.
Well, honestly, it's you can look at the safety portion of it as well.
yeah, just
You know,
that
the less time
alone.
you're out there,
Whenever you're riding, you're not watching.
no,
Yeah, well, it's just like texting or whatever. If you're doing this, you're.
Well,
Because
if we're good on the budget,
You have room for the 4,000?
I won't have to pay that till 25,
Budget
so
25.
I'm gonna add that to the
Okay.
next budget.
I would make a motion to accept the bid from
And I'll get an
Digiticket.
exact.
Yeah, that
So
would be
this
great to
doesn't
have.
This doesn't have, we just talked about it yesterday, it doesn't have the licensing for Odyssey and Tyler in it, which is about 3,000, so that's where it comes out 28.
And the Odyssey is the electronic court system.
Right.
And that's a one-time fee. You pay it to get it set up and then $400 maintenance. I think.
So I can get Ashley the.
Yep.
100%, I will do that today.
Who started the motion, sorry? You wanna do it up to then 28, or you think it'll be more than 28, or?
It'll be over 20.
It'd be like 28 and some change.
to 29.
Make it 29 and
Not
then
to exceed.
if we go over that, we need to revisit.
And that'll come with 40 days guarantee on everything. So, good thing.
Well, if you wait till next year to do it, it'll probably be
It'll be more, there is a.
25% higher.
There is a Q4 discount.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, what's the motion, Reed?
What did you say?
I made a motion to approve the program from Digitech not to exceed 29,000.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's passed.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there anything else? Miss O'Hare, do you have anything?
I don't.
Okay. Good enough.
So I will not be here on the 11th. That's our next meeting. I don't know if you guys want to try to change it or go ahead either way.
Whatever, I don't know what we got going on, but
I think she went to look.
shut the book.
Okay, we'll just
Okay.
try to make it without you.
Okay.
I entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's passed.